Hello everybody and welcome to a special interview here. If you haven't seen already, then you're about to hear one of the most shocking and terrifying stories for freedom of speech and censorship that you'll have heard in recent times. In the evening, last night, David Icke was banned from the entire EU mainland, with the exception of Ireland obviously, for simply wanting to speak at a rally in Amsterdam. So Dad joins me now, welcome. So tell us about the story from your side. How did this begin and what's gone on?
Well, thanks, Jay. I'm in a hotel, which I'm going to leave shortly. It's near Folkestone, and I was here to go through the Channel Tunnel today to Amsterdam. And then I was told last night we got a ludicrously long and rambling email letter from the Immigration Department and the Justice Minister, actually Injustice Minister in the Netherlands, saying that not only was I banned from speaking at a peace rally in Amsterdam on Sunday, but actually I was going to also be banned from the 26 European countries of the so-called Schengen group. And so what we are looking at here is something that people who have been abusive of me and ridiculing me and dismissive of me all these decades are going to have to face a shocking fact. And that is that I have been right all along. And you put this into perspective. I'm one guy living on the Isle of Wight. I say that to self-identify with the labels of a human body or human life, whether it's color, culture, sexuality, income bracket, race, religion, whatever, is ridiculous and confirmation that anyone who does that has not grasped what reality is. And actually, we're all, in the end, one consciousness having different experiences. And someone with that philosophy has been demonized as a hate monger, spewing hate, according to the ludicrous Injustice Minister in the Netherlands. I've had ultra-Zionist organizations, as usual, there's one in every country, and they're used to silence anyone who's getting close to the truth, who has demonized me in the Netherlands. A man and a dog organization, just like the man and a dog organization in Australia, the Anti-Defamation Commission, I think they called it, was responsible for getting me banned from Australia in 2019. And people need just to look at this situation and ask, why is this so-called all-powerful, omnipotent system of national and global institutions so terrified of one guy? A guy they dismiss, oh, he's mad, he's ridiculous, he thinks reptiles run the world. Well, I don't actually, I know they do, ultimately. And why this extraordinary, over-the-top response to one man, I say again, coming to Amsterdam, speaking for half an hour at a peace rally, and going home? Why are they so terrorized by me? And I'll tell you why. Because they know I know. They know I know in fine detail, deep, 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 deep in the rabbit hole. They know I know. They know people like Mark Rutte, the World Economic Forum controlled alleged Prime Minister of the Netherlands. the Netherlands royal family, the House of Orange, up to their neck in this stuff, know that I know. And therefore, they are desperate that no one else knows. And so they have to stop me communicating it and the detail that I've put together in the last 32 years. And what you're seeing here is not omnipotent power expressing itself and imposing itself. You're seeing panic over one man and what he's got to say. So anyone out there, if you want to know what's going on in the world, then watch my videos and read my books. And then you'll see in context why this extraordinary, extreme, over-the-top fantasy of banning a guy from 26 countries for his opinion, you'll see what it's all about.
Yeah, and it shows how bizarre and backward the world is, that you're banned from Australia, yet a mass murderer in the form of Hancock's going there to earn 350 grand. But I think with Australia there was almost a bit of a precedent to a degree, because they've banned people before and it wasn't that much of a shock. I know we were sat together when the ban came on and there wasn't that much of a shock, to be fair. But with the EU, the whole idea that it's the freedom of movement, it's all that, to be banned from effectively an entire continent, as somebody who has no criminal record, no affiliation with any movement, any gangs, any kind of organisations that have any criminal record or criminal background, based on the say-so of, as you say, a man and a dog, to anyone watching around the world, whether they agree with what you write about or talk about or not, that is a terrifying precedent, because where does that end?
Well, it ends, Jay, where they want it to end, which is no one ever hears or sees anything that isn't sanctioned by authority. That's where this is going very fast. And if the people of the Netherlands now, and many do, but many still don't, they don't realize that they live in a fascist country, then I don't think after this they ever will grasp the nature of their plight. And, what they've done is actually what they did in Australia. This is the technique. You get a man and a dog organization, CIDI in this case in the Netherlands, to demand that someone is silenced and not allowed into the country. The mainstream media, which is owned by the same cult that owns the rest of it, they then start promoting the fact that I am a hate monger, yeah, and I am basically demonized on an extraordinary scale. You also make sure, which is what the Netherlands media did, that you don't ask me on, the target of the demonization, hour after hour after hour, to give a response. You don't want to give them a platform, you just want to destroy them. So, by the way, I am undestroyable for anyone who wants to try.
Well, many have.
And what happens then is you go to the third stage, Jay, and that's where moronic people believe what they're told about me. Moronic people who call themselves anti-fascists, while they were totally silent while Rutte's fascists imposed fascism on the Netherlands, yeah, during COVID, and with brutal police a police response that was absolutely brutal. Those guys in the fancy dress that looked like total pillocks with their batons. They were silent on that because they're not anti-fascist at all. They wouldn't know proper fascism if it bit them on the arse. But they then start saying that they're going to do a counter demonstration. And they don't want me in the country. Why don't they want me in the country? Because they believe what they're told by those that don't want me in the country. And then in the last 2 or 3 days, Extinction Rebellion announced they were going to do a counter demonstration on Sunday against me. Not because I am anti-Semitic, but because I am calling out the human caused climate change hoax for what it is, a hoax to justify the transformation of society. And so what happens then at the end of this sequence is, as we saw in that letter from the immigration department and the injustice minister, they say, oh, well, look, the police have said that because you've stirred up such antagonism, you are a threat to public safety if you come into the country. And so the sequence is your man and a dog organization starts kicking off. Your media then massively expands that to the population. Great chunks of the population believe what they're told because they haven't got a mind of their own. And then the government says, oh, well, you know, the reaction to you, which we've actually generated, is a threat to public safety, so you can't come. That's the sequence. And it's familiar to me because I've seen it many times.
Yeah, they did it in Australia as well, didn't they? They've tried it in other countries. They've tried it in the UK at various places and always failed to actually get events cancelled. Do you think, in a sense, though, I mean, I imagine it's pretty disheartening, but do you think that it actually is counterproductive what they've done? Because you'd have gone Sunday, I don't know how big the protest was going to be, let's say a few thousand, you'd have done the speech and you'd have left the country. Whereas by doing this, no one in Holland doesn't know who you are now. This is going to be a story across the whole EU. Do you think this has actually helped, in a sense, because it's made you, firstly, a massive icon for resistance, which you already were, but it's really amplified that. And it's also made a lot of people that maybe hadn't heard of your work go, who is this guy then? What's he talking about? I'm interested.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, I'm not disheartened, I'm energized. Because when people go to this extent to silence you, you know you are on the right track. You know that you're over the target when they react like this. And secondly, we shouldn't forget that these people aren't very bright. A lot of these people aren't very bright. And so you are looking at those, especially in a state of panic. When you panic, you make mistakes. That they have gone so over the top that it has had this, among people with a brain cell, that is, and that doesn't, of course, include everyone or anything like, but those who have a brain cell, at least one working, will be looking at this and saying, this is so extreme, so over the top. What the hell why the hell are they doing this to this guy and telling us that he's some kind of terrorist? Is it terrorist 3 threat or something?
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. And so the combination of not seeing the implications for my credibility of this, which are, of course, massive, and the panic of, no, we've got to stop this guy, has combined for them to, I mean, I'd call it an own goal, but I mean, they're 6-0 down and they've scored them all against themselves. That's the scale we're looking at. And so they've given me tremendous credibility, because if I was not right in what I'm saying, and I mean in the more far out, allegedly extreme areas,
yep,
which they mention several times in this diatribe of nonsense to explain why I'm banned. You know, the whole reptilian thing comes up. I mean, why aren't they just saying, if it's so ludicrous, oh, it's just mad, no one's going to believe that? But it's true. And that's what they're terrified of. And I'm not talking about the minions that in the administration in the Netherlands. They'll just do what they're told and believe what they're told to believe. But in the deep inner core of this global cult, they absolutely know that I'm right. And they're terrified that enough people will see that I'm right and realize the true nature of what we're facing. And that is a non-human force working through a human network, the global cult, to impose its will and its total control via AI on the human population. And, you know, I say this to those that hurl their hate at me. They're mindless hate, because if they had a mind, they'd see it was completely unfounded. I say this to the media, the spineless, gutless media who are a disgrace to their children, who are going to have to live in the world that they are fundamentally helping to create. I say to those people, one day you're going to have to look your kids and grandkids in the eye when they say to you, Mummy, Daddy, Granddad, Grandma, what were you doing when total global fascism came in? And these people will have to say to them, oh, I was demonizing and seeking to silence a man who was warning us about it. That day is coming. But of course, there's always a positive. And that is that every time they do this to me, every time something else happens in the world that was in my books 10, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, more people start to look and look and look. And so the awakening continues. And this outrage, that's what it is, will have massively advanced that among more people who will see that its extreme nature says nothing about me in the sense of what they're claiming, and says everything about an apparently all-powerful system that's terrified of one man. Why are they terrified of him? The question follows. I'll have a look. Ah, that's why. And so we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, we've always spoken about, authorities don't seek to silence people that they don't fear. It's never from a position of strength, censorship. It's from a position of weakness, because you're scared about the implications of people hearing what that person has to say. So I understand that you're going to be doing a video this morning, which is going to be played at the protest via video link. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually sitting here in this hotel bar just before I'm leaving. You see somebody in the back there a few minutes ago. And so behind me is the English Channel. So I think it's a very good place to do the video, which is the limit of my ability to travel at the moment, and certainly not into Europe. And of course, as you well know, Jay, this now will be used because the EU, of course, as I've documented for so long, is not just controlled by this global cult. It was created by it. You can take it back at least to the 1920s and the sequence that led to the EU. It's all been planned. And now we have a situation where a few bureaucrats in Brussels dictate to virtually the entirety of Europe. So you're going to see, well, of course, Canada and Trudeau, another World Economic Forum clone, and America and other countries around the world. You're going to see them use this as the precedent to ban me from there as well. And so we're faced with major challenges, but they're good challenges, as you point out, because they make a statement about not only the fact that what I'm saying, whatever people may think about it by reflex action, is actually true. It's actually what's happening. But also it makes a statement about where the real power lies. People look at authority, and they look at these governments and their institutions and all this stuff, and they immediately think, well, that's where the power is. If it were, it wouldn't be frightened of me. It's hanging to its perceived power by a thread. And that thread is stopping the population knowing what's really going on. Because when it does in enough numbers, its game is over. Because a few people can't control 8 billion unless the 8 billion acquiesce to it. And acquiesce by believing, one, that authority has power, and two, by believing what authority tells them is real. When they realize that they're being lied to, not here and there, not every few days, not when there's an R in the month, they're being lied to like machine gun fire all day, every day. Why? Because it's the only way this structure of control can survive. And so, how does a few control 8 billion? It can't without our acquiescence. And when we take that away, the game is over and the house of cards comes down. And that's what they're terrified of. And that's why they're terrified of me, because they can't intimidate me. I think they're a bunch of prats. I mean, I just think they're just lunatics. I'm not frightened of them. I'm not intimidated by them. And I'm not going to be silenced in running away and cowering in fear about whatever they may do. What they must do what they do. And when they do, they're making a statement about where the real power is. It's with us. And that penny has got to drop. And when it does, these pathetic, utterly pathetic people will lose the power and the control that they have accrued over these thousands of years. It can be gone overnight once the penny drops, that actually authority's power is the power we give to authority. When we stop doing it, it's over. And this, I hope, this situation that's just happening now will just show people and confirm to people, if this authority, global national authority, was all powerful, then it wouldn't be frightened of me. But it is, because it isn't powerful at all. It's just another confidence trick, another mind trick to keep us in servitude by believing that the power is somewhere else when it's always been with us.
I completely agree, and we'll continue to let them do the PR for you, because the more they are cornered, exactly, as you say, the more they'll lash out and make bad decisions under pressure and keep making mistakes like this and increase the profile and the awareness tenfold and so on. But I'll let you go, because I know you've got a video to do and you're going to head back down to the Isle of Wight. If they let you get on the ferry, you might be banned from there, you never know.
Well, yeah, well, maybe. That's very possible. Keep him in England. Keep him on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
Keep him in Wight and keep him in his house. His flat.
I
mean, it's. Anything. Just shut him up. No.
The island might join the EU just so you can't go home.
There's always a way. What do they say, that phrase, where there's a will, there's a way?
Yeah.
And I will always have a will. So there'll always be a way.
That's a lovely place to leave it. All right, Dad, I'll speak to you later on.
Cheers, Jay.
Take care, bye.